It sees plosives like a challenge, like, bet you can't pop an S sound. This is literally the second time I'm shooting this video. The first time was without this clown nose, and it was an absolute mess. Not gonna lie, when I got my hands on the Samson Q9U for the first time a while ago, I didn't really hold back. It was a muddy mess with a lot of work needed to clean it up in post. And so it does seem like the release of this microphone, the Q9X, it's a bit of a logical extension and perhaps a way for Samson to right a specific wrong that may have happened. So with this review of the Samson Q9X, maybe we'll see if we can do that. First, though, I should mention, Samson did send me this mic for the purpose of the review, and as I've said before, that doesn't have any impact on my review. Now, there is very little separating this microphone from the earlier Q9U. The side grille is not painted black, which I do kind of actually prefer. And on the back, you will notice this mic has a lot less I/O. Gone is USB, gone is the high pass, and that mid boost still remains. Outside of that, from a distance, or if you squint hard enough, you would be hard-pressed to tell them apart. Again, much like the Q9U, overall build quality is quite tank-like, and you might actually be able to double this as a weapon if zombie hordes appear. This thing is a dynamic cardioid microphone. Frequency response is 50 Hz to 20 kHz. It has a max SPL of 140 dB. A sensitivity of neg 57 dBV per Pascal, which, by the way, puts this thing between the SM58 and the SM7B for gain needs, something that you really should keep in mind. And it also, weirdly enough, has an EIN of 19 dBA weighted. That was actually on the spec sheet. It's a really weird thing to see on a dynamic microphone, especially at that level. 19 dB of self-noise is huge, and usually something you would see on a condenser. Not on a dynamic, especially one that boasts an XLR analog output. So honestly, I'm really thrown off by that one. By the way, outside of that one really weird stat, all of these kind of basically line up with the Q9U. Now time for the off-axis rejection of the Samson Q9X. This is me speaking about 2 inches off the front of the capsule. Now I'm about 2 inches off the side of the capsule. And now, like a complete idiot, I'm talking into the rear of the microphone. Now for the plosive test of the Samson Q9X. Peter Piper picked a peck of pickled peppers. Peter Piper picked a peck of pickled peppers. Peter Piper picked a peck of pickled peppers. Now for the proximity effect test. This is me speaking about 3 inches off the front of the capsule. Now I'm right up against the capsule. Now for the handling test of the Samson Q9X. And I do know there's a lot of people that like to move their microphone around or hold it while they do their videos or their audio. I don't understand this. Please leave your mic alone. However, if you are one of these handlers, this is what it sounds like. Now let's just look at it with and without the clown nose. This is the Q9X without the clown nose. And this is the Q9X with the clown nose. Now we have the Elgato Wave DX up against the Samson Q9X. This is a microphone that I wasn't particularly nice to when I reviewed it a couple weeks back, but I also wasn't particularly nice to the Samson Q9U. And this is what it sounds like with these two microphones side by side. Which one do you like? The Wave DX? And I know there's a lot of people that really like this microphone. I am not saying anything about that. And this is the Q9X. Which one do you like? Now we have the Samson Q9X up against the standard, the SM58. This is the microphone that I think everyone should own one of. It's pretty much the Swiss Army knife of microphones. Why? Because it basically can do anything. What do you think as I go between them? Can the Q9X perform better or at least as well as the SM58, which is a tough sell? Now we have the Q9X up against the SEV7. I'm going to start working in because a lot of people prefer it over the SM58. It's more articulated, it's got a different EQ profile to it, and it just sounds fantastic on a lot of people. A lot of people say this is the ultimate live mic. Which one do you think as we go to between the Samson Q9X and the SEV7? I really hate the mute button on the Q9U. Just saying. Now we have the Samson Q9X up against the Samson Q9U. This is with the flat frequency on. And just for poops and puddles, let's go over what they sound like with the mid boost on, because that's the only option on the Q9X versus the Q9U. This is the difference between the two microphones with that mid-range boost on. What do you think? Which one do you like? And now we have an incredibly unfair comparison. And this is about as far as I'm going to go. This is the RE320 by Electro Voice, and this is the Samson Q9X. As I go between them, it's okay if you decide, nope, Samson Q9X is good for me. But just listen to the RE320 and tell me whether or not it's worth it to save up for a few extra months. How do I put this? I don't really see the point of this microphone, other than for one very specific thing. Its price. $129 US. That's the only real world difference I see between this and the Q9U, other than the USB. The sound profiles are exact as far as my ear can hear. I thought I could pick up some differences between the audio with the mid boost on, but even then, if they are there, it's more subtle than it should be. This is still a muddy mic. It struggles to compete with still cheaper microphones in the SM58 or the V7 if you want something brighter. Now, this mic has been marketed as a microphone for instrumentation. I don't have a lot of instruments to be able to try it on, nor do I have the time to do so. In the year and a half since the Q9U was released, it would have made more sense to take the mic back and rejig the profile of the capsule. And that didn't happen. It sees plosives like a challenge, like, bet you can't pop an S sound. It seems to completely forget anything to do with articulation, and it requires an overwhelming amount of EQ intervention. The one thing I can say about it is that it got rid of that bloody mute button on the front. Otherwise, well, I guess it does have a decent aesthetic. Now, I do get that aesthetics are a good thing for a lot of people. Sound quality, though, shouldn't sit that far back. So I will say the same thing time and time again. You can't go wrong with the SM58 or the SCV7, which in my mind, both provide better audio quality. But if you do need something aesthetically pleasing, well, you won't find much at this price point. Considering the anemic output of the pod mic, my recommendation is to save your money and get the RE320, which, by the way, you can see here. It stands up quite well to much more expensive microphones.